Hey, what's up guys? My name is Cameron Gallagher and today I'm going to be going over my GH5 Anamorphic rig for this week's big shoot. So this is going to be a little more of a relaxed video. It's going to be really cool and in-depth I think though. So basically what's going on, you're going to hear me say a lot too. So I'm shooting on the G7 right now, just so you know. I'm using a different light so things may look a little bit different, a little stranger. But anyway, so I had to rent a anamorphic lens and set up, in particular for my GH5, for a project I'm shooting this weekend, which I can't talk about just yet, but I think it's gonna be really cool and I think you guys will really like it. Now, I don't have actually any someone shooting behind the scenes, but I am gonna be able to get some behind the scenes photos and talk about the process and all that kind of stuff. So I will have some behind the scenes content coming soon. So, what this video is about today is sort of shooting anamorphic on the GH5 and how I rigged out a budget rig. Now, first disclaimer is when I say budget, this is a budget anamorphic rig. Now, I understand that a lot of people think differently of a budget. Obviously, budget is comparative. But when you're talking about having an anamorphic rig and being able to shoot anamorphic and do all those types of things, this is a very, very budget setup. Secondly, I don't own some of this equipment. Obviously, I rented this specifically, and now I'm not sponsored by Lens Pro to Go, but I want to give them a huge shout out because what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the equipment. I'm going to leave all the links down below where you can purchase the equipment, but I'm also going to leave the link for Lens Pro to Go up at the top. So if you do want to rent any of this equipment, I mean, you can rent, I'm pretty sure, everything on this rig at Lens Pro to Go. Again, I'm not affiliated with them, I don't get any kickbacks or anything like that from them. They're just awesome, and I was really blown away by their customer service, and I know the guys there too, they're really cool. So anyway, yeah, I want to get into kind of what I got going on here and sort of what the whole rig is. So you can see it's pretty big, it's pretty bulky, and the first thing I'm going to talk about is obviously the camera. So this is the GH5, of course. This is my camera of choice. And the cool thing about the GH5, which is really makes it, I mean, honestly, other than I think technically an ARRI Alexa, I think it's the only other camera that has a true anamorphic 4x3 sensor. There might be a red camera, so I can't swear to that. But what that means is when you're shooting true anamorphic, you want to shoot in 4x3 so that when you actually stretch out your image with the anamorphic lens, it becomes 22.39 to 1, which is scope. So of course the GH5 actually shoots 4x3 internally, which is awesome. And again, it's 10-bit. It's not exactly 4K. It's in between. It's similar to what ARRI's open gate 4x3. I don't know. It's close, so almost 4K. And yeah, so anyway, GH5 is the base, and of course my small HD monitor is the next piece, which I'm gonna turn this on quick. One thing that I did do just to keep things simplified is, so obviously the GH5 is showing me the undesqueezed, really long image. And then what I did is I actually turned the LCD around, because the thing that's very difficult is the way I have this monitor set up, which I'll talk about in a second, you can't see when I'm recording. So I can't actually see the record icon. So what I did was I flipped the LCD out so I can easily see my settings. I can click record and I can see that I'm recording and then look at my monitor. So anyway, it's just in the GH5's, can't think of the word, anamorphic mode. And yeah, and then the small HD, actually go into the settings and then put the anamorphic mode on as well. And I know you're not gonna be able to really see it that well, but I do actually have the 2.39 to 1 because it's a little bit bigger. So I had to crop in ever so slightly, which is why I can't see the recording. And then I do have the 16:9 bars on there too. So that way, if I do need to crop to 16:9, I'm still making sure that I'm within the realm of what I'll need. So that's great to know at least. But yeah, so I mean, those are pretty similar. Those are already in my setup and what I'm using day to day. Obviously have the small HD cable. I'm also using the Andy, I think it's Andy Cine Gear, I believe is the company. Anyway, it's the Andy Cine Vlogger mount. I love this thing. This has become my favorite monitor mount because it basically emulates the Red monitor mount, where it's right on top, it can swivel any which way, can turn up and down. Friction, really easy. I do have a large friction arm, but I don't like that thing because it hangs over and it doesn't seem to stay all the time. And I just have some regular Anton Bauer Sony NPF batteries inside. Right here, I have the Movo microphone. This thing was like 40 bucks on Amazon. It's super cheap. It's great for just getting good scratch audio. I've actually used it for real audio. Not that I like to do that, but in certain scenarios, if you have to, it's there. It's not bad. And then, of course, my camera cage is the Zacuto cage. And with that, I'm actually I mounted the top handle here because one thing about this rig, and I'll get to in a minute, is it's very, very heavy. So I need something that was kind of like centered that I could easily grab. Yeah, so that's on the NATO rail back there. And of course, it kind of bumps that, but it's not too big of a deal. So those are things that I already own: the microphone, the camera, the monitor, and the cage, which I'll leave all that down below in the description. Now, thankfully for the shoot, there is no audio. There's like one line of audio at each location, which is really easy. So I'm either going to use the lav mic or I just will shut up my H6, but we'll see how that goes. So the first thing I had to rent was actually this Zacuto base plate. So this Zacuto base plate, if I can turn it around here, is really big. And what it does is it has the base plate, the rail system. It also comes with extension rails. And then it also comes with a lens support, but I did get a different lens support, which I'll talk about in a minute. But so this is a pretty basic lens support system and just, you know, rail system, 15mm rails. These are key when it comes to larger rigs because it's how you're going to rig out the rest of your camera kit. So if you're someone who's new to larger camera systems, you really want to make sure that you are getting some type of rail system because, again, that's how you're going to mount everything. These are really nice too because they're fully adjustable. So, I mean, Zacuto is pretty much the best of the best. So you really can't beat them. So anyway, really easy, really nice, super cheap from Lens Pro, obviously. Of course, I'll leave all the links for everything down below. Yeah, so that brings us to the cream of the crop, sort of the you know, the main event. And that is the SLR Magic Anamorphic Cine 2x lens. This is the 2x, not the like 1.33. So that's a true anamorphic lens. And this thing is pretty awesome. I've been using it now for like 2 days, testing it before I go and actually get the shoot, which I always recommend. Rent your gear like a day or two early. Don't rent days on after because you really want to make sure that you have everything ready to go and that everything works. Now, I'm going to be talking about these lenses more in depth in the breakdown video. But just from the 2 days used so far, these things are way better than I think people are giving them credit for. I see a lot of footage online that's a little iffy, and I see people kind of talking about it, and it's because these are not the easiest lenses to use. That shouldn't scare you. These aren't hard to use. The key thing is that they're slightly heavy and bigger, so you of course have to have a mount support system. Obviously, it's an anamorphic lens, so there's that different workflow. Obviously, you have to set your monitor and camera up for that, so you have to keep that in mind while shooting. And then the biggest thing we'll talk about in a minute is the ND filters, but I would say the only gripe that I found about this lens, which is the gripe that I heard everyone, is that the actual lens focusing system, the actual barrel piece is down here, which is like borderline in the matte box. There's probably a way that you could rig a follow focus up to that. I don't know if you can actually see that where it is. There's probably a way you could rig a follow focus up to that somehow, squeeze it in between. But at the moment, I don't have that set up that way. So again, it's a little more difficult. We didn't really have the budget to do much else. And this has a far focus throw too. So, you know, I think its minimum focus is what, 3 feet 6 inches. And then it's like infinity is around, where is it? There. So, I mean, you're talking, it's like a, ooh boy, that's quite a spin. I mean, you're talking, that's like a 260 degree probably turn to focus from infinity to your minimum focus distance. So that's really the biggest thing to keep in mind that I've seen from this lens so far. Otherwise, this thing is really gorgeous. You know, it has all the characteristics of anamorphic, which is what you want, but at the same time, it's not, you know, treacherous or anything too bad. Now, I did rent only to 50. Reason being is this project's a little more of a budget project, so I really couldn't get the full kit. But in actuality, what I realized was that I didn't need the full kit because I think the 35 is the roughest lens of all of them. Being so wide, you get a lot of like the chromatic aberration and sort of that like frame bending going on. Just a lot more artifacts than I really wanted. We want this to be somewhere in the middle. And the other thing is too is the run and gun nature of it. I knew I was not gonna be able to change lenses very often because to change even a battery, you have to pretty much take this whole thing apart. And I'll talk about some things that I would probably do differently in the future. But yeah, the lens is awesome. It's really great. It looks awesome. Like I'm very excited to, you know, do it, and I was excited to try it out too. So totally worth it. Really was amazing to use. So of course the next thing is there is a lens support under here. I don't honestly remember the company name. Really simple, just clamps onto the rods and just holds the lens up. Kind of boring. The next thing is actually this wooden camera matte box. Now, if you've never used a matte boxes are for kind of two things, almost three. The first and like the least important part of a matte box is it can protect your lens. It can obviously protect your lens if it falls or something like that, if your camera drops or whatever, but you don't want that to happen. The second most important is blocking out flares, which is a little iffy when it comes to this, and I'll explain in a minute. But of course, the main thing for a matte box is your filters. And you can see, I'm not gonna actually pull it out because it's just gonna be a real hassle. But you can see up here, there's these little filter trays, you pull them out, and that's where you put your ND or diopters or any other type of filtration that you need to use on your camera lens. Reason being is, a lens like this, it has a huge front mount, so it's not really easy to get threaded ND filters or thread something on the front. So I knew I wasn't gonna be able to do that, so I had to rent a matte box. Now, of course, this thing actually has a 15mm rail attachment, so it attaches down there, has a little nice swivel arm, and it can swing, I believe, although I didn't do that, so I'm not really sure. I'm not gonna mess with it too much, but it does, I think it does swing. Yeah, probably. But it also has the top flags and side flags. I don't need those just because, again, I'm not really blocking out the light. That's not the key thing for this. It's just the fact that I need to use ND filters. Now, the only disadvantage, which is with any anamorphic lens usually, is the fact that you will get some artifacts. You need to get the glass of the ND as close as you can to the lens. But of course, on these lenses where you need to be able to focus, it's a lot harder. So that is a little bit of a tricky thing to do, but it is what it is, you know? And then inside of those, I actually, which you can kind of see up here, I got the Tiffin, I believe it's Tiffin filters. They're like the 4x5.6, I believe. They're the filter kit that Lens Pro To Go has. And of course, they're nice. I can't remember exactly what stops I have. I'll leave it in the description below, but I got two, just in case I do need a real heavy ND in case it's sunny out, or if it's a little bit more overcast, probably the one is fine. The nice thing about anamorphic lenses is they're a lot less, you generally want to stop your lens down. So in my case, I'll be like maybe 4 or 5.6 shooting on most of the day. So you don't need as heavy of NDs if you were to be shooting, you know, at 1.8 or something like that. So that's the kind of the advantage of anamorphic lenses in that case. But again, this wooden camera matte box, this thing is an absolute tank, and I really do like it. I wish I got to keep it, unfortunately, but I'll have to buy one. So now, if I were to do this again for this project or rent again for another project, what would I change? The key thing that I would probably do is I would probably get a V-mount battery. And the reason being is because of how big this rig is, there's really no easy way to take out, especially the battery of the camera. Unfortunately, it doesn't allow enough room. So what I would probably do is you get more larger 15mm rails. I'd probably extend the rails back, and I'd probably put a V-mount battery on the back of it, because the battery would power the monitor, it would power the camera, and then I'll talk about something else it would power in a second. But the other thing about that back rails is it could also add either a shoulder mount or some type of like shoulder rest. And I probably would get one of the Lens Pro To Go, or you can buy them, the like Titan arms, I believe. They're from Bright Tangerine. I don't know if they have them or not, but they're really strong friction arms, and I could mount the monitor more like out here. So this entire rig could almost sit on my shoulder like here. And then the other thing was I'd just probably get a, well, probably be a right hand for me at least, a right hand, what are they called? Arms that goes on the 15mm rods. That'd probably be beneficial. This is a pretty heavy rig. I mean, you know, I can hold it with one hand. It's not like terrible, but it's gonna get heavy over a while. That would be cool. I'd probably get an easy rig if I was doing this all day. So the easy rigs are really cool. They can like pop over your head and hold it up. That would be cool. And then some type of follow focus. Probably what would be the best thing for a setup like this would be some type of electronic follow focus that maybe is like small but has like a motor attached to it, because you could always have the electronic follow focus, like either above even, which actually probably be even better, have another set of rails up top that hold your follow focus. That's what a lot of like high-end cameras do. If you have like big stuff like this down below, you do the follow focus over top. And then the cool thing about that is you could use it, because it's electronic, you could even probably mount it to one of the hand grips. So you could have 2 hand grips and you could easily just be sitting there doing this with it, and it doesn't have to actually physically move it. And you could change the speed depending on how you like to shoot. That's all nitpicking. Of course, that would bring the price up a lot. And that's one of the big advantages, obviously, of this price is it keeps everything incredibly cheap. I believe, I can't swear to this, but I'm pretty sure my full rental for the lens, the base plate, the lens support, the camera cage, or excuse me, the matte box and the filters, I'm pretty sure it came to like $400 something with shipping and everything included. And I think it was for like 6 days or something. So that's cheap. When you think about shooting an anamorphic project, that's really, really cheap. Now, I understand that there's a lot of you out there that are saying, whoa, like that's not cheap. The reality is that if you were to have a camera, if you were to be shooting something at a high shutter speed, so you don't need ND filters, you wouldn't even need the entire matte box. So that would save you like 150 bucks probably right there. And then, yeah, I mean, you could save money just by doing that. Of course, if you had a camera that had built-in ND, you could save money there. But yeah, I mean, this is just a really awesome camera kit, and I'm really, really happy with the images so far. I'm very excited to put it to the test. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave all the product links in the description below, as well as Lens Pro to Go. Obviously, like I said, give them some love because they're really awesome. Like I said, they don't sponsor this, but really, you know, amazing job on them, and they just great customer service too. But I'm also going to leave some like cheaper alternatives. So I'll probably leave a link to like a cheaper matte box alternative, or you know, maybe a cheaper base plate alternative, something like that. That way you guys can kind of take a look at whatever options are out there. But anyways, be sure to subscribe and stick around because I am going to do that video very soon. So the shoots are up this weekend. I'll probably have a breakdown next week or the week after once I get like some of the shots in and edited a little bit, and I'll be able to show you some of the clips and kind of talk about how it did, what I liked about it, what was easier or, you know, maybe not as easy. Yeah, that's it, guys. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's a little laid back and just kind of hanging out, but hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you guys later.